Hello, welcome to this update for the severe storms today. So we do have this enhanced risk now, spots of the northern plains, the upper Midwest. So they issued yesterday night and it expanded slightly today into spots of North Dakota, Montana, and also northern Minnesota. There's this big slight risk from Montana to the northern Michigan, and there's this marginal risk as well. So there's a separate margin risk further in New Mexico and Colorado and spots of Iowa to Missouri. So the tornado threat is actually 10% hatched in Minnesota and to North Dakota. So please be careful in those areas. So a strong tornado or two possible in those areas. Also in the 5% some tornadoes possible. And the 2% goes all the way to the UP of Michigan. So be careful in those areas. There's also, yeah, stay safe and have ways to receive warnings. There's the wind threat, this big 30% across eastern Montana into North Dakota, spots of northern Minnesota too. And there's this 15% and the 5%. There's also 5% there in New Mexico and Colorado into Iowa, Missouri. So be careful. The hail is also this 30% spots of northern Minnesota into North Dakota, spots of Montana as well, in the hatched area for potential larger than 2 inch in diameter hail. So please be careful in those areas. And the wind is also hatched in the 30%, especially for some hurricane force winds possible with some of those storms. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. Severe thunderstorms are likely this afternoon to tonight from far eastern Montana and eastward into northern plains and into the upper Mississippi Valley. Tornadoes, winds greater than 75 mph, and hailstones greater than 2 centimeters, no, than 2 inches in diameter are all possible. So please stay safe in those areas. There's showers and thunderstorms have persisted from much of the night into early this morning across central southern Montana, much of Iowa, central Wisconsin. This activity was supported by a persistent moderate low-level jet, strong low jet. Expectations for this cluster to persist for the next few hours, while gradually losing strength amid a weakening low-level jet. And a very moist air mass exists to the west of this cluster across the Great Plains. Recent surface analysis places 60 dew points through eastern Nebraska into the 60s as far south as central North Dakota. Surface vicinity with the warm front arcing southeastward from this low uh, across northeastern western Iowa before becoming oriented more north to south over western Missouri. Expectation for the day is for this warm front to become better defined as the current surface low fills and another develops over western South Dakota. This evolution will be supported by another by by a shortwave trough currently located over the Great Basin that progresses quickly northeastward towards the northern plains. So please be careful. And by mid to late afternoon, deep surface low will likely be over western South Dakota, with sharp warm front extending eastward from the low, roughly along north-South Dakota border and central Minnesota. The upper 60 low 70s dew points anticipate along this frontal zone by late afternoon with surface temperatures. The upper A is to low 90s. These conditions beneath the steep level lapse rates will result in strong to extreme buoyancy with Earth and SB Cape ranging from 2,000 joules per kilogram across western North Dakota and over 4,500 joules per kilogram northeast and South Dakota into central Minnesota. And thunderstorm development is expected across eastern Montana, approaching shortwave trough intervals with this buoyant air mass during the late afternoon. Additionally, the surface convergence could lead to thunderstorms developing along the front further east from North Dakota into Minnesota around the same time. Given the environment, storms in this area should quickly become severe with very large hail and tornadoes. This is the primary risk. Storms over eastern Montana also grow upscale into organized convective line. And although There is still some uncertainty regarding how this occurs. Environmental conditions support that develop fast, progressing convective line can give strong to severe damaging wind gusts, and some over 75 mile per hour possible. The potential for embedded tornadoes exists as well, and the threat for damaging winds with this line should continue to the upper Great Lakes. So be careful. Those areas today. Please warn others. And as I mentioned, also New Mexico into Colorado, those areas, and Iowa to Missouri, a couple of strong storms possible this afternoon as well. So be aware, those areas. There's day two. There's this big slight risk already in two spots of the Great Lakes to New York, northern Pennsylvania, and Michigan, spots of Wisconsin. This margin risk goes as far west as Montana. So the tornado threat is 2% in Montana's North Dakota, and once again 2% there in the Great Lakes, a few spots in the Northeast. So be careful tomorrow as well. The wind threat is 5 and 15%, especially in the Great Lakes and some hail, 15% around Michigan to Wisconsin. So stay safe in those areas, and this will also affect Canada in those areas because if we continue this light risk here, it passes for most of southern Ontario. So be careful in those areas, and strong to severe storms are possible Saturday from the northern Great Plains to the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. So stay safe in those areas. There's day three, alright, this big slight risk from Nebraska to Canada and this marginal all the way to Texas. And also this marginal spot to the northeast for Saturday, for Sunday actually, because tomorrow Saturday. So severe thunderstorms may develop on Sunday across parts of central northern plains, the upper Midwest. So still be careful Sunday in those areas. Day 4 for 8, nothing. So be careful. And today, be careful southern Canada with those storms as well. The risk is not as high as in the US because the strongest those storms will be mainly around this enhanced risk. But there'll be a few storms in Canada as well. So be aware. And shows like this critical fire risk much of the Great Basin and the Southwest today. So be careful with fires. Don't burn anything. And there's still for Saturday some critical around the near the Rockies and into the southwest and the Great Basin. So be careful in those areas. Later, still for Sunday, day three, some critical fire threat. So stay safe in those areas. There's still these storms happening in Iowa now. They move further east, but later you see those storms start appearing in Montana later in the afternoon. They go to North Dakota, a few stronger ones in South Dakota, but then this starts in Minnesota here, those big storms with tornadoes and damaging wind gusts. They go into northern Wisconsin and northern Michigan. A few ones might go further north into southern Manitoba, but the main threat is around Minnesota and to North Dakota. Those stronger ones, you can see very strong cells, those blacks and whites appearing there. So possible big tornado threat and also damaging winds, but especially hail, those strong storms. Hail is a big threat. And later, after this becomes more like linear, those damaging winds. This goes and continues further east into tomorrow, and still tomorrow a few storms in Montana, North Dakota, but especially further north there into Saskatchewan. So be aware, those areas. There's the whole region now shows like a few storms in New Mexico, into Colorado, and in Mexico, western Mexico, some strong storms there too. You can see into Saturday, this line of storms moves into Michigan and into Ontario, those stronger storms. Saturday, potentially later in the evening, into the northeast. So be aware, those areas, there's that surface low spinning near the Rockies there. So that's what's driving most of it. But there'll be this secondary one that's forming there in the plains, as they mentioned. So be careful in those areas. Please stay safe, especially today. The enhanced risk have many ways to receive warnings, because I'll show you here right now. This environment is very a very volatile environment there this afternoon. So especially by 19C, a few tornado parameters start appearing. By 21C, some significant tornado parameters in Minnesota, a few spots, but especially in the evening. By 1Z in the evening, shows like some as high as 7.5 tornado parameters in Minnesota. So this could be very problematic. The combination of those mid-level lapse rates plus all that moisture and higher dew points and other factors will make a very volatile environment for those supercells and the Cape as well, of course. So please stay safe, and even to 8.6 in a few areas. So be careful in those areas. Later by 3Z in the evening still shows in Minnesota. The herd might be kind of exaggerating, but this is pretty realistic with this scenario, especially those extreme buoyancy there. So it does show close to 11 tornado parameters. That's very, very high, close to 11, the end of the scale here. So please stay safe. This will still change. It changes the whole entire day. But this is just one run. But yesterday, I showed you on the video as well. The 12s yesterday had the same thing. So please be careful in those areas. Stay safe. And Saturday evening shows tomorrow evening, northern Michigan, again Minnesota, a few spots, but especially Michigan because there'll be more storms around Michigan to Ontario, the northeast and those areas. So be careful tomorrow. And the of traffic list does show here until Sunday. So shows like, especially North Dakota into Minnesota, those stronger storms like spots of central Minnesota into Wisconsin. Those areas should be the greatest concern. So please stay safe in those areas, North Dakota too, and eastern Montana. And there in true Ontario, there show some pretty strong cells for Saturday, tomorrow too, during the night and everything. So stay safe, some hail and possible tornadoes, some damaging winds into northern Michigan too. So stay safe in those areas, and yeah, warn others. There's here the supercell composite this evening in those areas, and that should be pretty high, around 51 spots of the upper Midwest into the northern plains. So stay safe in those areas, be careful. But there in Canada, it's not as high as I expected. So it does show in southern Manitoba into Saskatchewan a level 2, a moderate. So it does show some 90 km per gust, some storms, 2 to 4 centimeter hail, and some 50 millimeters of rain possible. So be careful in those areas, but not as high of a threat as it's in the US there. But be careful too. There might exist a very low tornado threat to the stronger storms too, but they don't really mention it here. So just be aware some hail damaging winds there today, and tomorrow still some hail damaging winds, some heavy rain for Saturday. Those same areas there. So be aware in Ontario. True, so let's see. So this is day one, Friday. The storms are further west, but Saturday, southern Ontario, they don't really have much there, but they do have some 8 km per gust possible. Those storms, not even during the night, they have that much. This might update, I think, because from what the HER was showing, the HER had some pretty intense storms in southern Ontario. So I think if I were doing this, I would put at least a moderate in those southern sections for Saturday. So be aware in those areas too. So here there's the heat wave still shows in those areas, like I said yesterday. So be careful with the heat, like especially if during the day it's very hot and the overnight lows are still hot. like in the 70s. So try to cool down, and hydration is very important, and proper cooling. So stay safe in those areas. And still here, the heat risk shows those majors there in the plains now, today into Saturday. Some extreme in the plains, major in the Midwest, extreme heat risk in the Midwest Sunday into Monday, extreme in the Midwest to the Northeast. Tuesday, very extreme in the Midwest, especially Ohio, Indiana, into New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia. Wednesday, still extreme in the Mid-Atlantic, North and Midwest. And Thursday, this next Thursday, still extreme in the Mid-Atlantic, those areas. So please be careful of this heat. And same thing in Canada there. So shows Saturdays warmer, southern Ontario and Quebec, but especially after Monday shows to 35 degrees southern Ontario. And throughout next week, slightly better, but especially Monday, Sunday, and into Tuesday, stay safe there. Those colder temperatures for the west, like I mentioned yesterday, and still in the plains there today close to 100, like 103 even, might be even to 104 on some localized spots, and 108 in Arizona still. So stay safe in those areas. So 90s in the southeast, in the south, and widespread in more areas. So for Sunday, not on Saturday, day 2 shows a few spots to 102, 103 still, with 104 in the plains. So very hot during the day, kind of cold in the northwest, but like in the southwest and much of the southeast, still very hot. For you to have an idea, during the night, just some 70s. So 70s is still quite hot for some, like some 80 degrees during the night is hot. So please be careful too. In the northwest, some 30s in the mountains, so slightly colder. But Sunday during the day, to 100s in the plains still, widespread 90s, even to 98 in Virginia for Sunday afternoon, and still shows Monday morning colder in the Rockies, but some widespread 70s further east to that heat dome, like Monday afternoon, more hundreds in Maryland, 201, 100 Virginia, North Carolina, 99 near Connecticut, New York, so very hot, and so 100 in the southwest too. So be careful in those areas. Monday night, Tuesday morning remains hot. You can see this whole red area in the 70s during the night Monday. And it shows like some 100s to 102 North Carolina Tuesday, some 90s, 101. This also changes the whole day, but just for you to have an idea. And it does remain quite consistent. So be aware, Tuesday night doesn't cool down that much, and Wednesday starts climbing on the west again, some 90s, 100s the southwest, still close to 100 on the east coast. And Thursday morning slightly colder in the Rockies, but Thursday afternoon still pretty hot along the west and the southeast. So stay safe in those areas, be careful, and still like chart shows max wind gusts does show like some strong winds in the interior west, the Great Basin, a few mountains there. Careful, be careful the fire danger, and there in the north does show like uh, Minnesota into North Dakota and those areas. It shows some damage into Minnesota, a few spots in North Dakota to 75 mile per gust, but a few localized spots in Minnesota does show close to like some 80 to 85 mile per gust in a few spots, but very localized. But stay safe, more than 70 in North Dakota and a few spots there. And here, the whole region, you can see as well extending to Canada there. Does show in Ontario some pretty high gusts for a few storms, close to 100 km per gusts. So stay safe. Those areas and their escape here, very important component as well. So shows this afternoon the HERS like to 5,000 joules per kilogram southern Minnesota and South Dakota. The strongest of storms should be located further north into North Dakota and northern Minnesota. But in those areas it's also more than 2,000 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. So the atmosphere is very, very unstable today. So please stay safe with any storms that fire there, and be careful in those areas. Stay safe. Just going back here to like if it goes because I don't know why it's not loading. Good. So because there's still the Canadian Rockies there, a few areas of snow, so still shows a few spots in the U.S. Rockies as well in Idaho, more spots into Canada, more snow in the Rockies, so even to 56 centimeters in a few spots, and a few spots close to 10 inches in Idaho, in the mountains, Wyoming, Oregon, some snow as well in Washington, into British Columbia, and shows more snow northern Ontario into Manitoba, a few spots, and Labrador into Quebec, a few spots of snow, even like central Labrador into southern Quebec and northern Quebec too. So be aware those areas, and yeah, stay safe. Slightly colder northern Canada, but northwestern Canada into Alaska is still warmer too. So stay safe in those areas and stay tuned in the next few days for like tropical updates and everything. So be careful with those storms and stay safe. Warn others there.